Hi, my name is Michael Hutchison. Hutch is a nickname. Welcome, it's nice to see you. Sorry we're running just a couple minutes late. We've got our guest speakers that are all over the world in Toronto and Sweden and Las Vegas and Tennessee, and I'm excited and grateful that you're here live. You guys look amazing. Thank you for being here. I'm sure you know and have met lots of Michaels in your lifetime, but you'll always remember a Hutch. My friends call me Hutch. So please call me Hutch in the chat window. That area there, that chat window, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us your first name and tell us where in the world are you watching from. We've got hundreds and hundreds of people signed up and registered for the call, and we call that chat area the Hutch Zone. So you're now in the Hutch Zone, baby. And so let me tell you about today's program. We have a full hour of strategies for you. Here are the topics the leaders and I promised that we'd cover with you. And if you don't have something to write with, go ahead and grab some paper and a pen, because we'll have lots of notes and tips and nuggets that we'll want to share with you. And what will be important is that you get this down and you share those notes with your team. And if, Justin, you'll just go ahead and show the agenda. These are the specific topics, again, that the leaders and I promised that we'd take you through. Number one, we're going to give you strategies to be consistently persistent, how to be a top performer. We're going to talk about strategies to overcome objections. I'm sure none of you get met with objections or rejection on a day-to-day basis, but we are going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about mistakes to avoid. We're all human, but there are obvious landmines and roadblocks that get in the way of you producing results. We're going to talk about those mistakes to avoid. And then lastly, we're going to talk about strategies to grow your business and to multiply your profits. And I've got a few other outcomes. I want to have fun. Life's too short. Today is actually a celebration for me. Today is my birthday. So if you would, play full out, sit up in your seats, engage in the Hutch Zone. My engagement leader is Justin Results French. Justin and I have known each other a long time, and he and I are going to do our very best to make sure that we answer all your questions that you post there in the Hutch Zone. Make sure you get to know these leaders. Each and every one of them is very special and very approachable. And get to know me at the same time. And here's our promise. Together we're going to deliver value. We're going to share these specific strategies that you can use right away to produce results now and for a lifetime. And I encourage you to stay the entire time for the call, because you could win a prize. And does that sound like a good agenda? Does that sound like a good agenda? Okay, terrific. All those in favor of getting started say aye, and all those opposed? So I guess the ayes have it. Let's meet these amazing leaders now. All right. Susan, are you there with us today?
I am. Thanks, Hutch.
Terrific. So Susan Sly is a balanced living expert. She's an author. She's a speaker. She's an award-winning entrepreneur. She believes we can truly have it all. Susan has earned in excess of $10 million in the profession of network marketing and direct sales. In her current company, Susan's team generates almost 20% of the global sales volume. And she's produced numerous 6- and 7-figure income earners. She's been featured in the Networking Times, Success from Home, Forbes Magazine Online. She's appeared on Lifetime Television, ABC Family Television, The Morning Show in Australia. And I know more than ever, she's extremely excited about being published today on the ever-popular Hutch Zone television. Susan's run the Boston Marathon 5 times, and she placed top 10 in the pro division of the Ironman triathlon in Malaysia. Susan and her husband Chris have 4 children, ranging in age from age 4 to 17. And she's recently adopted a daughter who currently lives in Africa. Susan, can I pay you a compliment, a sincere compliment?
Thank you.
You walk your talk. You walk your talk in every area that I've been exposed to, especially I want to call out this area of time management. I wanted to get on your calendar in the late afternoon, and I was so impressed that Susan came back and said, Hutch, I'd love to, but this is the time that I blocked for my children who will just be coming home from school. So welcome, Susan.
Well, thanks, Hutch, for having me, and it's a deep honor to be in such esteemed company. And I want to acknowledge everyone who's with us here today because, what a blessing it is you putting this work together and for such a great cause. And one of the many reasons you and I bonded was our shared love of philanthropy and giving back. So thank you for everything you're doing.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. And then I think Donna Johnson just joined us. Donna, are you there? I don't know if Donna can hear me or not, but let me go ahead and introduce Donna because I see her. Donna is the most favorite official cheesehead that I know from Wisconsin on the planet. She's a former swimming coach. She's a great mom with 5 children. She's built one of the largest direct selling and network marketing organizations in the world. Her team currently produces 50 million in volume per month. An audience, let me just share, I thought I was good in my career to have taken 2 different companies to over $100 million in revenue, and Donna's team does that every 4 months. Very, very impressive. Donna's passion and persistence is demonstrated in her 26-year commitment to her organization that is growing and flourishing globally. And Donna, if I could, I'd like to pay you a sincere compliment. You're so amazingly young, and knowing that you've been with the same organization for 26 years, I have to just ask, you had to have started in direct sales when you were, what, like 2 or 3 years old? 26 years is such a long time. Donna, congratulations to you and Thomas for recently being married. It's cool that you still have that honeymoon glow. Donna, welcome, and congratulations again to you and Thomas.
Thank you. And can we do a sound check? Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you perfect as if you're right next door.
Oh my gosh. Well, you got your birthday miracle, so praise the Lord. We did it.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Donna, welcome.
Glad to
I've
be
got 2
here.
other guests with us on the show. John Hoffman has developed and trained sales teams since 1989. He's opened offices in over 7 countries. And he not only surpassed the top sales levels of his company, but he teaches peak performance principles as a business and life coach with a purpose of helping independent business professionals build true and lasting wealth. John has helped over 20 of his leaders become multimillionaires and 40 to become 6-figure ring earners. John lives with his beautiful wife, Darcy, and 3 daughters on a lake in Tennessee. And John, I've got to pay you a sincere compliment. Congratulations on surrounding yourself with such amazing, strong women. You and Darcy have incredible daughters and plenty to be proud of. Welcome, brother. Okay, we need a sound check on John. And let me introduce our last guest, Jordan Adler. Jordan Adler read a book. We're going to talk about this importance of reading books many years ago called The 10 Napkin Presentation by Don Fala. Don introduced Jordan to the idea of residual income. And Jordan was quoted as saying, "This simple book that I bought at a garage sale for 25 cents did more for my financial success than a $60,000 investment in a college degree." And while it took him a while, Jordan never let go of that dream of freeing himself from corporate America. In 1992, the airline that he was working with was paying him $28,000 a year, and then they filed for Chapter 11, and they reduced his pay in half to $14,000. So at that point, he made a decision. He gave up trading his time for money for a life of financial freedom through the miracle of leveraged income. Jordan has earned over $20 million in the network marketing profession, and he continues to build a successful business by signing up new customers and distributors each and every month. He's originally from Chicago, Illinois, and he moved to the western United States back in 1981 with a guitar, a suitcase, and just $250 in his pocket. And today he splits his time between the Mandarin Oriental Hotel on the Vegas Strip and the mountains of Arizona. He's learning to fly helicopters in his spare time, and he's currently preparing for his first 100-mile solo cross country. So Jordan, welcome. Great to see you.
Thanks, Michael. Happy birthday.
Thanks, man. And I'd like to pay you a sincere compliment. As busy as you are, you always get back to me, and I especially love it when I hear that you've just gotten off your helicopter and you text me. And so what immediately comes to my mind is that I hope that Jordan isn't texting me from the actual helicopter itself, because if you are, it reminds me of a great church bulletin board I saw just a couple weeks back driving in the North Carolina mountains. And here's what it said, Jordan. It said, honk if you love Jesus, text from your helicopter if you want to meet him personally. So Donna, let's go back to you in a couple of minutes. Tell us your brief story. What makes you qualified to speak about persistence?
Are you calling on me, Michael?
I am, Donna. Thank you.
Yes, I thought I heard my name. I'm just so happy to be here. I thought I was going to miss the hangout. I'm so pleased.
We wouldn't have done it. We wouldn't have done it without you. You're doing awesome.
Oh gosh. Well, I'm so pleased to be in this. And what qualifies me? Maybe it's because I've had more obstacles than most people, but you know, I really think that this call, this hangout, is going to help define obstacles and things that you go through. Rita Davenport, dear friend of mine, always used to say, write down your problem, put it on a piece of paper and put it in a box and go back and sit down. But then you got to go pick somebody else's problem. You would want your problem back. So the sooner people can start identifying their obstacles as gifts and what can I learn from that. But because I've had so many, it helps me help other people. It helps me be transparent. You know my story when you read it on page 127 in your book. I grew up in a blue-collar family. My father left our family when I was 13, so my brothers and I all worked and gave our money to my mom so we could eat. And I had a high school guidance counselor tell me that that I was a really good typist, so I'd be a great secretary, and that I wasn't college material. You know, it's so interesting because I look back, I was the president of Pep Club, and I led, believe it or not, Jordan and I are good friends, he will just laugh at this, I led all the pep rallies in my high school. And I was a nationally ranked swimmer. And I would get up at 5 a.m. in the Wisconsin winters and work out to improve my time. So I had all these other qualities that my guidance counselor didn't factor into my college material. So I hope that inspires people to really think about your life and what you can accomplish. I was a single mom with 3 small kids, no child support. My ex made it look like on paper that he didn't make anything. My family said to me, you need to go find a real job because if this doesn't work out, we can't bail you out. And I said, don't worry, I don't need a bailout. So having nothing was the best gift because I had no plan B. It was like I had to make this work. So I was very diligent about my appointments, my to-do list, because I wanted it that bad. I wanted to put food on the table. And I love Jim Carrey's new video that's going viral, where he talked about his dad and you know how he learned that you can fail at things you don't want to do, so you might as well do what you love.
That's right. That's right. Such great words of wisdom. Thank you so much, Donna. And Susan, in just a few minutes, tell us your brief story. What makes you qualified to speak about persistence?
Sure. Thanks so much, Hutch. You know, like many people listening, we all have our trials and tribulations, and Donna spoke about, you know, that required tenacity, right? And life is always going to throw us some curves. And what I like to refer to as defining moments. And when we have those moments, they can either refine us or define us. And a moment that I had in my life went back to the year 2000. And prior to that year, I was a professor of nutrition. I was a personal trainer. I was a professional athlete. I was running a health club. I had, I think, about 54 employees. I was on radio, television, all this weird stuff. And my health started to go downhill, and I could feel that there wasn't something, something was going on. And I went into my doctor and I said, I want these tests. And my doctor was a client of mine, actually. And on January 13th, he called me into his office and he said, Susan, this is the film of your brain. And he held up the scan and it looked like a fishbowl full of fish. And he said, you have progressive MS, and at 27 years old, I'd give you about 10 years, you're going to be in a wheelchair, and 20 years, you're going to be dead. And for anyone, that is beyond, traumatic. 3 days later, I was online. I was doing some research on the illness, and a chat log came up, and it said, "Hey, baby," and I looked at it. I'm like, "What is this?" And it was the woman my husband was having an affair with. And within 16 weeks, we lost everything. We lost our business. I became homeless. I was living on my brother-in-law's sofa as a single mom. So like Donna, when you're at the bottom, there's nowhere to go but up. And, I'm not going to say it happened overnight. It was one step at a time, but it was in the summer of 2000 that I took on a personal training client who introduced me to network marketing, and she had me read books like Rich Dad Poor Dad and Think and Grow Rich, and I began to shift my mindset. And it was over the course of the next 3 years, as my body was failing, my mind was growing. And so that's really how it all started. And I believe that this industry can provide folks like Jordan, like Jonathan, like yourself, like Donna and myself, the opportunity to really not just change our own lives and come back, but to really empower others. So, my message to everyone listening today is, you know what, if Donna can, persevere, if I can persevere, you can do it too.
That's right, absolutely. Jordan, you're next, please. What gives you the right to talk about persistence?
Well, and Susan and Donna, thank you for that. As I'm listening to Susan and Donna speak about their stories, one of the things that I find interesting is that every single person that's ever achieved big success in network marketing has a similar story with a different set, meaning they're on a different stage. But the story, the story is similar because that's just the nature of being human. Everybody goes through those struggles, and mine weren't quite as dramatic as Susan and Donna's, but I was involved. I was living on a shoestring, and it's almost, when you look back, now I don't know how you feel about this, Susan, but when I look back on my life in some of my earlier days, and almost like looking at an old film or an old video of my life in the past, some of it almost seems kind of comical. Like when I'm in my Maverick, putting the alternator in backwards that I bought from Pep Boys and blowing up the car and not having the money to fix it, and then having to take the bus to work for 2 years. When you're and then it's in Arizona, and it's 116 degrees in the summer, and you're standing out at the bus stop. And now I look at that, and it feels comical looking back on it. And I've got lots of stories like that. But I got involved in 11 network marketing companies over a period of 10 years after reading that book. And I was in my growth process, just like Susan. I was reading books and going to seminars, and I racked up $36,000 in credit card debt, buying products and going to training programs and traveling to attend these different events. Over time, I acquired more credit cards, and I just kept maxing them out. But I never made money in any one of those programs. I never got a check. In 10 years, 11 companies, never got a check. And then I joined my 12th company in 1992. And by my third year, I was making, I don't remember, $35,000 a month, and then it went up from there. And so, but it was many years, and so I am qualified to talk about the challenges. But so is anybody who's ever built a successful business is qualified to talk about it, because they all have the stories. We all have stories like that. And looking back, it's really, I do have to just say this: when you're a brand new distributor and you hear people that have built successful network marketing organizations and they tell their story, it almost sounds hard to believe. It almost like you can't believe that Donna Johnson was living the life she used to live, because it's Donna Johnson. But the stories aren't made up. They're true stories. And anybody that knows me and knows my past knows how it was back then. And so, yeah, so I guess my point is, no matter where you are, no matter what you're going through, there's somebody that has lived that same story that has gone on to achieve big success in network marketing. So.
No, that's true. And I'm going to come back to it, but I remember doing the interviews with both Susan and Jordan, and it was one of the highlights for me in the book. You were open and transparent enough to share when you were young growing up. You remember when they would pick teams for athletic teams, and both of you shared full transparency that neither one of you were selected. So we're going to come back to that, but I just ask that you hold that thought, and then we'll finish it out with John Hoffman. John, tell the group, tell the audience, what gives you the right to talk about being persistent?
Well, hopefully I'm no longer on mute, Hutch.
You're
but,
not.
Happy
You're good.
birthday to you. And what an honor it is to be with this group of leaders, and certainly congratulations on Profiles of Persistence. What a great book, what a must-read for all entrepreneurs. And in the book, you get a chance to read a little bit about it, but I came from a very dysfunctional life. I left when I was in 6th grade, and really my way out was through sports. And so I worked hard at sports and stayed away from all of the other crap that went on in life, and played college basketball up at Western Michigan, and thought, being programmed for life, that you go to college and get a degree so you can get a degree and get a job. And that's what I did. I took $147 to my name, was going to hitchhike to Houston, Texas, where there was work. Went to work in the oil industry, and after 4 years of literally laying my life on the line for another company, I got downsized. And what was a rude awakening was really an opportunity. And I'm so happy that it happened. I wasn't at the time, but I realized out of adversity can come opportunity if you maybe got your head on partially right. And I just felt, if it happened once, there's a good chance it might happen again. So I didn't want to enter back into the corporate rat race where I was building someone else's dream. Someone else was dictating what my life looked like. And I tried my hand at business ownership. I moved back to Michigan, where I grew up, and I launched an environmental company. And for everybody listening in, I got my butt kicked twice because I didn't have any mentors. I didn't have a sphere of influence. I didn't understand the law of association. And, already have gotten great notes from everybody that, that you've heard from here about how we program our mind. And, what's the old saying? Self-education will make you a living. Formal education, or I should say formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune. And so that's kind of how it started. And because I didn't understand timing, I bartended at night. I framed houses in the morning for $7 an hour to try to keep that company alive during the day. And in 1989, my wife and I got introduced to the direct selling industry. We were smart enough to find 2 of the top producers. They became our mentors. They taught us how the business worked. And what it simply boils down to, Hutch, I believe, for everybody listening in, if we're not willing to discipline, someone is going to discipline us in their business. That's the beauty of being persistently consistent with the simple daily disciplines, with keeping the main thing the main thing. And the more persistently consistent we are, the more consistently persistent we are with the understanding of what the promise can look like of financial independence and time freedom. By committing to the price and treating this like a business, great things can happen for everybody. But we must discipline ourselves in our own business, because I guarantee you, someone will discipline you in theirs.
No, you're spot on. Each and every one of you are absolutely spot on. So audience, what I'd like you to do is go to the Hutch Zone and get this. I'd like to have you type in the answer to this question. We believe that persistence is the #1 skill that will ensure your success. And I believe that persistence is a skill that can be taught. And what I'd like you to answer is, do you agree? And if so, why? But if you disagree, tell me why not. And so what I'd like to do is just take 2 minutes and just share 2 quick slides as to why I also with this group am qualified to write a book on persistence and host today's show. And so with that, Justin, if you'll just pull up the next 2 slides. Okay, and everybody can see that. So my background is I'm an author, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an investor, I'm an equity owner in a handful of businesses. As an author, this is my 4th book, and I started writing books in the downturn of the economy when that started in 2008. And I write books on topics that I find that are useful and relevant and that can put money in your pocket forever. And as I mentioned in my introduction, I've been on winning teams when I was talking about Donna's success that have exceeded $250 million in revenue in my career, but I can also tell you that I have failed. I've started and failed more businesses than many of you perhaps have had jobs. And here are some of my best setbacks. While I was a college student, at the age of 19, I broke my back. I had a fracture of the lower lumbar region of my spine, and I actually came close to death. And I was told that I would be paralyzed my entire life. And I ended up wearing a brace for 6 months that held my neck like this, stable, and I worked hard to rehabilitate my body. I prayed, and I prayed to God and said, help me to heal my body. What can I do every day? What are those, as John talked about, those simple disciplines that I could do that could help rehabilitate my body? And I focused on just being able to wiggle my toes. And from being able to wiggle my toes, I came back and I was a two-sport letterman my senior year in college. I played college football and I played college lacrosse. And for my first startup, I was fortunate to work for and with Tony Robbins from the mid-'80s to the mid-'90s. And I ran all the sales and marketing. And maybe you've attended some of his programs, or perhaps you've watched his television infomercial that aired for many years. And this is what was important. I left a comfortable salaried position with Ross Perot's EDS to go to work for Robbins. And then after I left to promote an event in Dallas, Texas, I found out that we were, as a company, $750,000 in debt. So left a salary job, left my wife and daughter to go to promote an event to find out that none of us could be paid. So I had to make a decision. It was either to go make this thing happen or to go home. Well, I couldn't go home. My wife and daughter were there. They were depending on me. I had to break through. I had to go help build this company from scratch. And that's what we did. We built it from a small company to one of the most recognized personal development training companies in the world today. But here's what else is important. The entire 8 years I was with Robbins, there wasn't a day that I didn't receive some type of criticism where people would say, Hutch, how could you ever work for a guy that puts on fireworks to attract revenue? I received that objection and that criticism almost on a daily basis. And then the next slide is just very quickly my family. Another setback, while I had a wonderful 17-year marriage, unfortunately, we didn't bring out the best in each other, and so that marriage was dissolved. But what we did do great was we made and produced 4 incredible, healthy, loving children. And my better half and I today have a blended family, and together we have 6 amazing, healthy kids, and I'm truly blessed. Another thing that I'll just say is getting on this hangout was a stretch for me, something that I could not do years ago, and here's why. I grew up in a very strict Catholic military family. My father was in special operations. We didn't talk around the dinner table at night. So I grew up introverted. I consider myself a closet introvert, which means that I have to work extremely hard to come out of my shell and to put myself and be uncomfortable in front of others. I also, when I get excited, I used to stutter, and I've been accused of having ADD, and yet, you know what? I've written several books. I'm one of the most sought-after speakers and trainers. I was the host of an online web TV show for Dun & Bradstreet, and like all of our special guests, if I can do it, you can do it too. So here's what we're doing. If you just joined us, one, you're late, but we did get started a little bit late. We're talking about profiles and persistence. And so here's my question, audience. What is persistence? How do you get it? Are you born with it? Is it like a muscle that can be developed and strengthened? And here's a question I have for everybody. I don't know if you guys saw this on the news, special guest, but does everybody know the name Janet Yellen? Y-E-L-L-E-N. You should know her name. She's one of the most powerful women on the planet. Janet Yellen is the first ever woman chair of the United States U.S. Federal Reserve. She's powerful. Last month, she gave a graduation commencement speech at NYU, and I took some notes as to what she said. She said to these graduates, you're not going to succeed all the time. She went on to say that the best qualities of success aren't based on your abilities, rather your grit and your persistence. And if Justin, you can just share the screen now, her definition of persistence I thought was profound. She says that persistence is an abiding commitment to work hard towards long-range goals. She didn't say short-term, but long-range, and to persevere through the setbacks that come along the way. So for my special guest, and let's start with you, Susan, what are your single best tips or strategies to be persistent? Susan, let's go with you, please.
Oh, thanks, Hutch. You know, I was thinking Jordan and I were picked last for sports teams, but I'd pick him first now. I tell you. The number one tip I would give to everyone is about organization, because when we're disorganized, we're in a state of overwhelm. Forbes magazine for women, they did a survey of 3,000 American women, and here's what they found. 89% of stay-at-home moms and 92% of working moms were overwhelmed. And then the APA, the American Psychological Association, in their latest report says, anxiety is on the rise, depression's on the rise. People have so much going on, and they're just overwhelmed, they're frazzled, and they're disorganized. And I think that as human beings, we are capable of so much more than we ever even attempt. And like Napoleon Hill said, whatever the mind of man can believe and conceive, he can achieve. So if you've had that seed of greatness, the idea planted that you can do something in your life, and you're not going for it, why is that? Chances are it's because you're not organized. And anything, the business that Jonathan has built, or Donna, or Jordan, or myself, we had to carve out time. We had to get organized enough and stop the pity party, step into our power, and make the decision to go for it. So my message to everyone, Hutch, is if you really want it, take a look at your schedule, see where you're wasting time, and stop wasting that time and carve out time for your future, because you're not going to look back on your life and think, gosh, I should have played more Candy Crush or something like that. You're going to think, gee, I wish I had really gone for my goals and dreams.
That's perfect. So be organized. John, let's go to you, please. John, what are some of your best tips, strategies to be persistent? What would you share with the audience?
Well, great stuff from Susan there. And I would say one of the biggest things is certainly, can you hear me, Hutch?
Perfectly. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Is for a lot of folks, become attached to your why. The how-tos in this business, I think, are fairly simple. And the systems, the tools, the technology, the business model in general in the direct selling industry is the greatest win-win model that I've ever been a part of. And it simply speaks to biblical principles that when you help people get what they want in life, you'll ultimately get what you want. And that's one of the reasons I think you see so many folks like what you see today willing to give and invest their experiences into the lives of others. 95% of the people in the United States right now are and is critical. I'm going to take it a step further. Become attached to your why. When you have a resounding why, you're going to be persistent in your efforts to move forward in respect to short-term or long-term, going toward those goals. I like what Yellen talked about. Begin with the end in mind, but also come back with your short-term goals and establish from the end of mind a daily method of operation. And yet tie that part-time effort or tie that full-time effort to your why, and never forget. Also, be accountable to the process. Have a team, have a sponsor, have someone maybe cross-line per se who's going to help commit and invest into or hold you accountable to what it is you're wanting to achieve. And understand all along the way that circumstances don't make a man, they simply reveal him to himself. You're going to get knocked down, you're going to get beat up, and just because you failed doesn't make you a failure. Because you failed, it means you're on your way to success.
Okay, awesome. So stay attached to your why. Yes. And then Donna, let's go to you. Donna, share with the audience some of your best tips and strategies to be persistent.
I think really believe in yourself and don't compare yourself to other people. I loved what everybody has said. Step into your greatness and just be you. You know, everybody else is taken. So what are your qualities? What are your gifts? And just build on that and have fun. But you can do all of that and not succeed. So you've got to really get a handle on what I call the double A's, your attitude and your activity. And every day you just have to check it off, because when you're an entrepreneur, you don't have a boss. When you look in the mirror, you're looking at the boss, and so you've got to discipline yourself and focus. I'm just a real stickler with my daily to-do lists. I'm kind of fanatic about it. I drive my husband crazy a little bit. But, you know, your revenue-producing activities have to get done first, eat the crust, and then reward yourself and time block. I mean, I could go into so many things, but I think those are the most important. Just believe in yourself and see yourself at the top. You know, get a bigger vision. When someone told me years ago, I was really stuck when I was making like $50,000 a month. I mean, I just thought that was like gangster money. Who makes that kind of money? And Petter took me aside and said, you got to keep raising the bar, because if you want your people to make what you're making, he said, you're going to be making more than $100,000 a month. And I just looked at him like he was crazy. But I'm so glad I had someone like that in my life. And now all of you that are listening, you have people around you that are paving the way, that have shown you that this is possible. So why not? Why not do it? Why not play big?
Sure, why not? Why not you, and why not now?
Yep.
That's terrific. All right, Jordan, finish us up strong. Best tips, best strategy to be persistent.
Well, there's three philosophies that I live by, Hutch, that have helped me through the tougher times, and we all have those times. And so the first one is to don't let crisis turn into ruin. And what that means is that when you're having a crisis, don't let that be your downfall. Every single person that quits network marketing, first of all, quitting is the death of your business, and it's the death of your future. So when you quit, you're done, right? So the key is to not quit. And so the first thing is don't let crisis turn into ruin, meaning that when you're having some circumstances that feel extremely overwhelming, it's easy to talk about it, but when you're in it, it's like it almost becomes so, it takes over your life that to the point where you just like don't get started again. So one thing is, when I'm having a tough time, I don't let crisis turn into ruin. It's never my downfall. The second thing is, don't quit on a bad day. We all have a bad day. We all have a bad week. Sometimes we have bad months. I went through a time a couple of years ago. I lost my mother. You know, we lose parents, elderly parents. That happens in life, and it shuts you down. Someone who's important to you. There's things that happen in our lives that distract us, that pull us away, tug us away from the business. And so I don't quit on a bad day. I make that decision, and then if I stay in action, I always at some point will have a good day, and then I won't want to quit. Someone will call you and say, I'm ready to go. Someone you talked to maybe 3 months ago or 6 months ago or even 2 years ago. So that's the second philosophy. The first is don't let crisis turn into ruin. The second is don't quit on a bad day. And the third is make your choices to work not based on your emotion, because our emotions, all of us, we're human beings, you know. Our emotions go way up and they go way down. There's days where you're not going to want to work the business. Those are the days that you need to work the business based on, as John said, your commitment or your why, your mission. Like, what are you building the business for? That's what you really need to put your focus and attention on. Are you building it so you can spend more time with your family? Are you building it so you can travel more? Are you building it so that you can have a more fulfilling, free life? Whatever it is for you, that's where your attention needs to be. So you're making your choices and decisions not based on how you're feeling, which is what most people do. That's why most people don't make it. You're making your choices and decisions in terms of your work based on your commitment to your mission, commitment to your cause, commitment to your dream. That's ultimately what will determine your long-term success in the business. I'll give you one more quick example. I don't have kids, but every single person that has kids knows that there are times in your life with your kids that you don't want to be a parent. There's times in your life where you're done with your kids because of something that happens, but you continue on. Why? Because you're committed to their future, right? You're committed to them. You love them. And so you work through those challenges. And it's no different with your business. So.
No, you're spot on. All right, lots of great tips and strategies. Let's go on to the next outcome. Let's talk about mistakes. Jordan alluded to that we're going to make mistakes, and we're all human. And I shared that I've made more than most people have combined. According to the Direct Selling Association, the DSA, the number one criticism of the direct selling profession is the failure rate. So, Don, I'd like to come to you. What's your best advice to avoid failure? So we're five months.
I love that question. I love that question, Michael, because can you imagine if we were in this profession, direct sales network marketing, and needed to invest $500,000 to start our business? If the failure rate was that high, it would be pretty bad, wouldn't it? But it's very easy to start a business, and so it's very easy to stop a business. So I don't get concerned about the numbers and attrition because so many people don't even start the business, so we can't really consider failure, right? But I think the most important thing is manage your expectations and celebrate your small successes. And it's not a get rich quick. I think so often people think they can make money and be successful without working. And so once they understand you have to put something in to get out of it, it will really, I think it'll help our profession a lot to manage the hype out there so people realize you do need to work. It's network marketing.
That's right. No, spot on. And Jordan, let me come to you, please. Jordan, so we're 5 months into the year, right? And so what are some of the perhaps embarrassing mistakes or roadblocks that you see your leaders and perhaps some of your brand new associates making that could be avoidable?
Well, my answer to your question, Hutch, is going to probably be different than what everyone expects.
Perfect.
And I'll tell you why. Because I can look back on my mistakes, and beach money wouldn't be as popular as it is if it wasn't for the mistakes written in the book. So, in other words, if I had not had those mistakes and the things that I had to overcome getting to where I am here today, and the things that Donna and Susan and John had to overcome, and yourself, Mike, Hutch, to get to where you are today, if you hadn't experienced those things, you wouldn't have learned the lesson. So, I would say, as difficult as this is, to recognize that when you have setbacks and you have failures and you go through those circumstances that seem so overwhelming that you're never going to get through them, time heals. Those are the things. That's the first half of your book. Everybody that's going through struggle, the first half of their book is already written, and that's the book. That is the part of the book that's going to inspire people. So, I don't know that it's really a great idea per se to avoid those mistakes, because those mistakes are the things that give us the lessons that we learn to grow and to be able to have the story that's going to cause other people to say, you know what, if you can do it, I can do it too.
Got it.
So I don't do that, and I don't regret any of those things. As difficult as many of them were, I don't regret them.
Got it. Understood. Susan, let's go to you. Let's talk about some of the mistakes that perhaps you see some of your leaders or new associates making on your team. What would you counsel to those folks?
Sure. One of the most valuable pieces of advice I've ever received is the following: if everyone just writes the 4 letters down on the left-hand side of a piece of paper, S like Sam, A like Alpha, and R like Reginald. So the R stands for results. And the question is, what results are you looking for? Are you looking for a 6-figure result, a multiple 6-figure result, a 7-figure result? So you have to go back up the paradigm and go, what is the S? The S stands for skills. We can only ever get the result level to match the skills that we have. So Jordan's learning to become a helicopter pilot. They don't just say, here's an Apache, honey, and good luck with that. They're going to give him some skills. I pray to God they don't. But knowing Jordan, he could probably do it. But they're going to teach him the skills so he can physically fly that helicopter, right? So it's the same thing in our industry. If you're looking for 6-figure results, you've got to have 6-figure skills, whether that is, doing 3-way phone calls, presenting your compensation plan, handling objections, those types of things. The next A stands for your activities. So it's really around the consistency, and I see a lot of people looking for a result, but it's like Donna spoke so eloquently about, is they're not really putting in that consistency. You know, if they had paid $500,000 for the business, they'd be giving it a $500,000 effort. So looking for a 6 or 7 figure result without putting in those disciplined activities, they're not going to get there. And then the second A stands for attitude, and the attitude has got to match the amount of income we want to make. And while he was still alive, I had the privilege of sharing the stage with the late Jim Rohn 3 times, including the last time he spoke live. It was Jim, myself, Mark Victor Hansen, and Jeff Combs in Dallas. And Jim used to say, he said on this particular occasion as well, that if we want to make 7 figures a year, we've got to give 7 figures in service, and we've got to have a 7-figure attitude. So the biggest mistake I see people make, Hutch, is they want a result. They're not willing to put in the time to get the skills. They're not willing to get organized enough to do the activities, and their attitude isn't matching that outcome.
Okay, perfect. All right, John, let's finish up with you, please. Walk us through, what are some mistakes that people need to avoid?
Well, I don't know. Let me piggyback a little bit. Susan made me think of something. I am a pilot. I fly my own plane. And I'll never forget, Hutch, we were coming out of Destin, Florida. I was fairly new as a pilot. My wife was in the back seat just enjoying life while I'm flying. And I ran a tank dry. I was busy with the controllers over military airspace and climbing through about 10,000 feet amongst clouds. And I ran one of the tanks dry. It sure gets your attention when you make a mistake like that and the engine sputters. Your adrenaline shoots through the moon, you know, and you reach down, you do what you need to do, and you fix it. In the last 10 years, I've never run the tank dry again. So it was a great experience. It wasn't great at the time, but you get a chance to learn from it. Same thing in playing college basketball. All of our experiences were not good. They were not easy. In Michigan, I was the only guy shoveling off the snow on my friend's outdoor basketball court while all of my buddies were partying, cutting the gloves off or the fingers off in my gloves so that I could keep my hands warm. You know, successful people do what unsuccessful people aren't willing to do. And again, Jordan and Susan and Donna, I think, hit the nail on the head. We have the greatest, in this industry, the greatest asset we've got is that we're in the people business. Well, the greatest liability we've got is we're in the people business. And unfortunately, most people won't treat this like the business that it is. And 2/3 of the domestic national product in our country is through franchising, with an average startup of $137,000. Well, I don't know what the startups are with Susan, Jordan, or Donna. I know with our company it's very minimal. And unfortunately, some people come to the table with a game plan to not treat the business like it is. Like Susan said, let's celebrate small wins. Let's set people up for realistic expectations. I think we can eliminate a lot of the mistakes and a lot of the get-rich-quick thinking by helping people understand that success comes a day at a time, a brick at a time. And when we set them up for realistic expectations, great things can happen. Real quick, we have a coaching model that we use with our associates. We tell them how the business works. We show them how the business works. We let them work the business, and then we grow them. So we call it tell me, show me, let me, grow me. And the greatest aspect of exponential growth toward success comes from letting people, kicking them out of the nest and having them go into the marketplace to see the people and tell the story. But when they're out there seeing the people telling the story, as leaders, as servant leaders, as soon as they're done, they immediately call in and we have a coaching moment, a plan, do, review, a refining and advancing, so we can take them right there and help not only celebrate small wins, but then help them refine and advance anything that took place in that let me moment. So that's pretty much it.
Okay, all right, great strategies, great nuggets, great tips from each and every one of you. And audience, I hope that you're getting all of this information, and to encourage you to make sure that you're taking great notes and that you're going to share this information with your team. What I'd like to do is to give away 10 copies of our book, Profiles in Persistence, to the top 2 people. Dustin, let's do this. For the 2 top people who write the best takeaways, the best comments, the best shares of those tips and strategies, the recaps that you've heard from each and every one of these brilliant leaders, and tell us what was the most important distinction you heard from today's show. We'll send you to 2 of you 10 copies of our paperback Profiles in Persistence. And unfortunately, gosh, we're getting close to the top of the hour, but I'd like to just circle back to each of the leaders. Again, thank you for being here. Thanks for being entrepreneurs, great leaders, helping our global economy. Thanks for being amazing givers and really true ambassadors, not just for your company, but the entire profession. And for you in the audience, thanks for working for yourself. Thank you for taking the time to invest and spend some quality time for us. And as Donna said, believing in yourself. And with you, Donna, what would be some final words of inspiration that you'd like to share with everybody on this call?
Well, game on. I hope everybody watching is going to write a review and go for it, because, you know, leaders are readers and readers are leaders, and you're only going to grow, your paycheck is going to grow as much as you do, because it's that law of attraction. People will be attracted to you when you work on yourself, when you listen, when you care. And if you're interested in other people, you'll be interesting. So excited about your book, and so privileged to be a part of it, and can't wait to find out who wins.
Okay, wonderful. And Jordan, with you, please, what would be some final words of inspiration that you'd share with the audience?
Yeah, Susan, I hope I don't ever get into a helicopter without any skills. It was when I made the decision to learn to fly helicopters for fun, I had no idea what I was in for. It is by far the hardest thing that I've ever had to learn to do in my life, and there have been many, many times over the course of the past year and a half that I didn't want to go into the school because there was something that I was going to be doing that day that sounded like it was a little overwhelming. Like, for example, auto rotations. You know what that means, John? Turning the engine off and learning how to land the helicopter. And I probably had to do 100 of those before you even get your license. So you learn how to do those things, but it's overwhelming. You don't want to go to the school. But I learned from a guy that ultimately went on to become a billionaire. He's been a billionaire now for 12 years. His name's Kenny Trout. He's had horses in the Kentucky Derby for many years. He had a philosophy: see the job through. And that means that whatever you got to do to see the job through, in other words, don't stop until it's done, that philosophy will allow you to achieve any dream. So even if it takes you 10 years, 20 years, if you write that dream down, it's important to you, then see the job through. And that's really the advice that I would give those of you on this webcast, that any dream that you have, write it down, focus on it, do the work, and then see the job through.
Okay, wonderful. And then, John, what would be some final words of inspiration that you would share with our teammates?
Well, I tell you what, number one, read this book.
Thank you.
Get a chance to listen for some great folks, and I've enjoyed, I've always enjoyed time with you, but Donna, Susan, and Jordan, thanks for the nuggets you've given me. And I would just say this, Chuck, Hutch, life rewards deserve, not need. And God has created everybody to be successful. You are created with amazing, amazing, amazing gifts. It's only when you come into this crazy world that you start to lose sight of what those gifts look like. And I would just encourage people to understand the seed is in you. Everything that you have is in you. And just continue to, absorb principles like what you heard today, and invest in a future that is worthy of the very calling and purpose that is in every individual that's part of this today. So, Hutch, thanks for your leadership, and thanks for the opportunity to spend time with these other great leaders.
You're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. And then, Susan, what would be some final words of inspiration for you to share with the audience?
Well, I have notes I took from Donna and John and Jordan and yourself, Hutch, and I know naturally everyone listening, watching wants to be successful. I think we all have the seed of desire within us to want to be, do, and have more in our lives. And my number one tip, and I think the thing that has really served me the most, is to be coachable. when you have a millionaire, a multimillionaire, a billionaire willing to mentor you, giving you wisdom, then you do what they say. And you may say, well, Susan, I don't have a multimillionaire mentor. You have books. And that's where I started. And just a quick story, when I first got into the industry and I was in prayer and really believed that, I was divinely put in the industry, I said, God, please send me millionaire mentors. And I had a goal. I wanted to have 7 millionaires on speed dial on my mobile phone. And sure enough, that did come to pass. But it didn't happen overnight. And in the meantime, I learned from millionaires who had written books. And so I would encourage everyone to purchase this book, Profiles in Persistence, where you can get these amazing millionaire and multimillionaire coaches, because that's where it all begins. And like these great leaders and my peers have said, you shift your mind, you shift your results, and everything else takes care of itself. So thanks for doing this, Hutch. I really appreciate you. God bless, and have a great birthday.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. What a gift. What a gift to spend this time with you guys. So I'd like to, if I could, just say a couple words again, and thanks for the time and commitment that you dedicated to investing in this call, and thank you to these leaders, such amazing givers and so generous. And with your permission, I'd like to just say a couple words about this book. Each of these leaders spent months with me putting the content together. And the reason that I write books is to give money away. And the second reason is because I'm on a mission. And that mission is to create this persistence movement. And for me, it all starts with the fact that the average American only reads 1 to 2 books per year. Just 1 to 2 books per year. And that the average CEO reads 4 books per month. So that's a clue. And there's a gentleman named Warren Buffett, who's one of the wealthiest people on the planet. And what I've discovered is what he does for the majority of his waking day is he reads. So as an author, I would encourage you to get multiple copies of this book. We've got a couple of special offers for those. If you will, go back to the site that you registered, and if we could just put this up, please, Justin. If you go back to the profileandpersistence.com/celebrate site, there's a couple of special offers there. Number 1, for everybody that buys at least 10 copies of the book, I'm going to gift you my latest book that I wrote last year titled Stop It, 7 Mistakes to Avoid Before Starting Your Relationship Marketing Business. That's one special offer. And the second special offer is for anybody that pulls together as a team and invest in 100 books, I will dedicate at least 60 minutes to do a customized private talk for you and your team. But again, go to the Profile and Persistence website, check out the videos and the samples that are there, and by all means, take action on these ideas. As Susan brilliantly pointed out, when I read a book, I look for the 6- and 7-figure ideas. I look for that mentoring that can take me and my business and my family to the next life. And I tell you, this book is filled with these million-dollar ideas, tips, and strategies. And our book is loaded with them on every page. There's over 200 pages. And these leaders share with you exactly what they did on this call was what do they do on a day-to-day basis, a day-to-day build to earn the money and create the lifestyle that they have. And I think the last thing is also important, and this is what both Don and Susan alluded to that caught their attention, is that when you invest in lots of copies of our book, the proceeds go to a great cause. And that charity of choice for me is Days for Girls. Days for Girls helps young women and girls around the world that don't have access to feminine hygiene products. Incredibly sad. Celeste Mergens runs Days for Girls, and I believe in her tremendously. I also believe that nobody on the planet should be held back or oppressed, and especially in this case for young women and girls who are held back because they're going through their period. I want to make sure that we abolish that and that none of these women are oppressed or held back the rest of their life. So to push you over, order 10 copies. I'll gift you a gift for each other, a copy of the book Stop It, and anybody that selects 100 copies, I'll come in and do a personal one-on-one talk for your team. So go to the Celebrate tab on the Profile and Persistence site. And again, you're in the Hutch Zone. Susan, Jordan, Donna, John, what an amazing gift. Thanks so much for your time and energy. I can't thank you enough. Keep up the great work. I look forward to meeting you, each and every one of you personally. God bless, and thank you for being on this call.
Bye, everybody.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
God bless everyone.